I've spoken before about using music to help with language learning, but today we're going to delve into a little research on the topic rather than just my thoughts. It's generally agreed that listening to music lights up a lot of the brain, everything from emotional responses to memories, much more so than many activities. We all know how a particular piece of music can bring back a particular feeling, often linked to a specific event. So this kind of activation should be able to help with second language learning, shouldn't it? The answer is yes. This has been known for a while and studies have been done. I found two mentioned that were specifically in a language learning class situation. However, let's start with this snippet first from a post on the Pfizer website about how music moves us. That's a little more general. Music is complex. It involves pitch, timbre, rhythm, dynamics, and so much more. Decoding music is quite a task for the brain, as it must integrate the sequentially ordered sounds into a coherent musical perception, according to an article published in the Journal of Biology. The mental processes involved in knitting individual sounds together into the overall perception of a song is quite similar to the process the brain goes through in reading, which involves first recognizing individual letters and sounds, and then ultimately gleaning meaning from sentences and paragraphs. Working memory is involved in both processes, and scientists believe there's a great deal of overlap between working memory for musical stimuli and for verbal stimuli. So we all know that reading is good for language learning, and this is telling us the processes with music are very similar. Plus, musical stimuli are linked to verbal stimuli. Sounds like the ingredients of a recipe for language learning to me. Now let's move on to this study. The impacts of music on language learners' performance by Mashayekh and Hashemi. I'm going to concentrate specifically on this part that talks about how music was actually used to prove the concept that it's good for language learning. In this case, in English language learning. And it's important to remember that listening to music is for most people an enjoyable experience, whereas learning a language in class for a lot of people often isn't. First, the songs need to be by native speakers. That shouldn't be a surprise. Students start by listening to music in a class that's not a music class. Then they write down the lyrics. After that, the lyrics are written on the board. Students then sing the song. Singing in a class that's not a music class. Then they also use the songs to discuss culture, which can be gleaned from the lyrics of different genres of music. This sounds like a really fun class to me, and all this is perfectly doable by yourself these days with lyrics, even if they're not 100% right, available on music streaming services. There are some suggestions for other tasks, such as collecting songs on specific topics, which should be good for vocabulary acquisition, and properly translating the lyrics is suggested, which I've suggested before too. So good to know I'm vindicated. Now on to this study, Language Learning Enhanced by Music and Song by Hilda F. Israel at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in South Africa. So let's look at the abstract here for a moment, which so connects to me with regards to studying literature in a language. A song is poetry set to motion. A song in a second language enhances the learning of that target language. This study confirmed that English second language learners were inspired by the singing of songs and music to achieve better in their study of literature, as well as other aspects of the target language. Learners were overwhelmed by the high standards and analytical thought skills required in the understanding of poetry as an aspect of their English curriculum. Lack of interest quickly set in, until the teacher decided to motivate them through the use of contemporary songs as a teaching methodology. Now, you can read the methodology used yourself if you wish, which, as the abstract states, was ultimately meant to get students comfortable with reading poetry, whereas I suggest simply doing it for vocabulary, pronunciation, and fun. It sounds more formal than the example in the previous study, but has a lot of the same basic elements. But I just wanted to highlight one more sentence here, which is part of the discussion of the findings. Language acquisition has a profound relationship with music in that they can both develop and support each other. A profound relationship. Do you need any more recommendation than that? Obviously, no one is suggesting that you only listen to music to learn a language, but it definitely has a place in that toolbox of language acquisition. It's fun, you can probably repeat each song a lot before getting bored, and there's so much material out there on the web that you may never run out. Links to the research used in this video are in the description.